Yes, I'm here, Miss Irene.
Oh, sorry for the interruption. We would like to present to you the CSSD presentation with as your speaker, and later will be Mr. Julius Miller Jr., our CSSD supervisor. Let's start. Do you hear me? Okay, the Central Sterilization and Supply Department vision. It's timely delivery of sterile goods, quality according to the European standards, efficiency, and the activities of the CSSD, the cleaning, disinfection of semi-non-critical items, sterilizations, critical items, high risk for what? For infection. The supply of sterile materials, and then I repeat, just for you. Okay? Next. The mission of CSSD is the timely delivery of sterile goods and the service within the hospital catering for the sterile supplies to all departments, both with specialized units as well as general wards and OPDs. Our aim, centralizing the activities of receipt, cleaning, assembly, sterilization, storage, and distributions of sterilized materials from a central department where safe sterilization is done under controlled conditions with adequate managerial and technical supervision at the optimum cost. Is to provide an efficient, economic, continuous, and quality supply of sterilized material to various areas of the hospital to deliver quality and infection-free patient care. Contributes to reduction in hospital infection rate. See? Contribute to reduction in the hospital infection rate. To reduce site burden of work of the nursing personnel, thereby enabling them to devote more of their time to patient care. By the way, I will discuss these slides, the important parts of the what is inside the CSSD. Okay, to be continued. This is the functions and activity inside of the CSSD. You start from rinsing. By the way, the one who do this is Mr. Bobby. The rinsing, the cleaning, drying, but then checking, then sterilization, then labeling, the storage, the issue and distribution, receipt, and then is the flowchart, the inside the CSS. Now, the functions of CSS. Receiving and sorting solid materials in the hospital. Determining whether the item should be reused or discarded. Carry out the process of decontamination or disinfections prior to sterilization. Carry out specialized cleaning of equipments and supplies. Inspecting and testing instruments, equipments, and linen. Assembling treatment trays, instrument sets, the linen box with etc. Packing all materials for sterilization. Packaging, labeling, and dating materials. Storing and controlling inventory. Issuing and distributing. And we have a list for principal purposes. There is no backtracking of sterile goods. One-way movement from receiving counter to issue counter. And they must have a signatory logbook for this workflow of work chart flow. Sterile area should be prior to sterile storage and issue. The receiving counter must be away from the issue counter. Separate receiving and issuing counter. There should be minimum 6 basic division in number 1. This is include your cleaning area. Next is drying area, packaging area, sterilization area, storage, and the issue counter. That the last one that I do, the with logbook signatory to those department concerned after issuing the items. Next, the structural design. The central unit comprises of 3 zones separated by 2 distinct barriers. One collection window, one supply window on the other ends. This your soil zone, clean zone, and sterile zone. Again, this is your soil zone, clean zone, and sterile zone. Sterilization, what do you mean by this? It's a process of freeing an article from all living organisms, including bacteria, fungal spores, and viruses. A material is pronounced sterile if it achieves 99.99% kills of bacterial spores. The steam sterilization. The equipments are first cleaned, then packaged muslin, linen, or paper, which are easily penetrated by steam, then placed on a shelf in the chamber. The water starts saturated, then wet before dry saturated vapor, then heated vapor steam. Steam with less than 0.95 dryness factor. Steam acts like dry hot air only. Strength of steam it is latent heat. Total time required, the autoclave is 45 to 50 minutes. The ETO, what does it mean? Ethylene oxide sterilizer is 11 to 12 hours. Sterilization indicators, mechanical monitors devices that record time, temperature, and presence. And this is the example of that. This one, the record time, temperature, and pressure. It was that. And then after that, we will put this in the lab for the record documentation for our survey. Next, biological indicators. And this is our biological indicators. This one. And we ordered this only a month ago. We have complete in 1 year. They are standardized preparations of spores. A positive biological indicator is indicative of possible sterilization process failure. They should be used at least once a week. But time needed for incubation is long. Spores or bacillus Stereotermophilus. Chemical indicators. These are more practical means to detect problems immediately. CDC and major use organizations standards and guidelines advocate that a chemical indicator is be attached to every package that goes through sterilization cycle. Within each package to be sterilized in what is expected to be the most difficult to sterilize location. These are divided into C classes. Higher the class, more sensitive the indicator. A class 1. These are internal and external process indicator. These inform the item has been exposed to sterilization process. External process indicator, the autoclave tape, this one. This is your autoclave. It's called autoclave. Steam indicator tapes. Now, the sterilization indicators, class 2, the Bowie test for vacuum steam sterilizer. They only access vacuum pump efficiency and detect the presence of air leaks and or gases in the steam. This one. This is our Bowie test vacuum. Class 3, the temperature contains chemicals that melts and sometimes changes colors with the appropriate temperature is attained. Class 4, response sterilization parameters. Contains link that changes color when exposed to correct combination of sterilization parameters. Class 5, known as integrating indicators or integrators, respond to all parameters of sterilizations over a specified range of temperature. These are immunizing indicator. These are designed to react to all critical parameters over a specified range of sterilization cycles for which the stated values are based on the settings of the selected sterilization cycles. The diagnostic emulator. The storage after sterilization, the sterilized items are kept in different trucks per with labeling. Example, dental 1, dental 2, dental 3, OB, the ENT, or to the other areas, supplied as per the demand of different area. To ensure continuous availability of sterile supply, 5 times of the requirement should be available in storage. Now, to be continued, it will discussed by Mr. Julius Milan. Start, Julius. On your mic. Maybe
Hello?
you forgot. Yes, now I hear you. I hear you.
Can you hear me, Miss
Yes,
Irene?
yes, yes. Start. Cleaning and sterilization.
Cleaning and sterilization.
Yes.
Disinfection and sterilization.
Yeah, disinfection and sterilization. Start.
Okay. We have three phases, the critical, the semi-critical, and non-critical. Critical are objects that enter normally sterile tissues or the vascular system, or through which blood flows should be sterile. While for semi-critical, objects that touch mucous membranes or skin that is not in fact required to disinfect process. For example, high level of disinfection that kills all microorganisms but high number of bacterial spores.
For
For non
non-objects that touch only intact skin require low-level disinfection or non-germicidal detergent. We have classifications. Critical objects enter normally sterile tissue or vascular system or through which blood flows. The object is sterility. Examples, surgical instruments and devices, cardiac catheters, implants, like that. The way the methods of sterilization is through steam gas or hydrogen peroxide plasma, ozone or chemical sterilization. Sterilization of critical objects. So we're using hydrogen peroxide gas plasma, ethylene oxide, peracetic acid, chemical sterilization, vaporized hydrogen peroxides, and steam formaldehyde. For chemical sterilization of critical objects, we're using lotaraldehyde, which is 2.0%, hydrogen peroxide with 7.5%, peracetic acid 0.2%, and phenolate 1.23%. Processing semi-critical patient care objects. Classifications. Semi-critical objects come in contact with mucous membranes or skin that is not intact. The object for this one is free of all microorganisms except high numbers of bacterial spores. For the level of germicidal actions, it kills all microorganisms except high numbers of bacterial spores. Like for example, respiratory therapy and anesthesia equipments, the GI endoscopes, endocavitary probes, etc. What's the method for disinfection? High level disinfection.
Very good.
For semi-critical items, for example, endoscopes, respiratory therapy equipments, anesthesia equipments, endocavitary probes, tonometers, and diaphragm fitting rings. For high-level disinfections of semi-critical objects, we're using lotaraldehyde, which is 2.0%, and ortho Formaldehyde, 0.25%. Hydrogen peroxide, still 7.5%. Hydrogen peroxide and paracetic acid, and hypochlorite, free chlorine, which range from 650 to 675 ppm. This may cause cosmetic and functional damage. It depends on the efficacy, which is not perfect. Objects will not membranes or skin that is not intact. The object of this practice is vegetative bacteria, for example, fungi and lighted viruses. Other examples are red plants, crutches, red rails, leaky leaves, bedside tables, walls, floors, and furnitures. The process or the method for disinfection of this one is low level disinfection or detergent for housekeeping services. Now let's proceed to methods and sterilization. Sterilization of critical objects. Steam sterilization, hydrogen peroxide gas plasma, ethylene oxide, peracetic acid chemical sterilization, ozone, vaporized hydrogen peroxide, and steam formaldehyde. Methods for cleaning is through mechanical cleaning machines or the automated equipment may increase productivity, improve cleaning effectiveness, and decrease worker exposure, of course. Under this one is utensil washer, is sanitizer, ultrasonic cleaner, washer sterilizer, dishwasher, and washer disinfector. Sometimes we're using manual, but here in our hospital, we're using the washer disinfector for cleaning of the instruments. For sterilization, what is sterilization? It is the complete elimination or destruction of all forms of microbial life and is accomplished in healthcare facilities by either physical or chemical process. Recommendations methods of sterilization. Steam is preferred for critical items not damaged by heat. Follow the operating parameters recommended by the manufacturer. The times, temperature, gas, etc. Use low-level temperature sterilization technologies for processing critical items damaged by heat. Arrange surgical and medical items that have been sterilized in the EKO sterilizer. In our hospital, we're using the steam sterilizer.
Methods of sterilization. Peracetic acid immersion system can be used to sterilize heat-sensitive items that can be immersed. Use immediately critical items that have been sterilized by peracetic acid immersion process. Dry heat sterilization, 340 Fahrenheit for 60 minutes. Can be used to sterilize items, powders, and oils.
Hello, sorry.
We are now in the objectives. Objectives of monitoring the sterilization process assures probability of absence of all living microorganisms on medical devices being processed. Detect failures as soon as possible. It removes medical device involved in failures patient use.
Thank you, Ms. Irene, for because I face some technical problems. First, sterilization monitoring. Sterilization monitored routinely by combination of physical, chemical, and biological parameters. For the physical, which is the cycle time,
Yes.
temperature, and pressure. For chemical, heat or chemical sensitive things that change color when germicidal related parameters present. From class 1 to 6, which is presented to you by Ms. Irene a while ago. We're using the type 6 emulating indicator for the chemical process. For biological, bacillus spores that directly measure sterilization. In our hospital, we're using biological indicators once a week. For packaging, once items are cleaned, dried, and inspected, items are raw or placed in an rigid container. A rigid tray basket according to guidelines. Hinge instruments open. Items with removable pouch should be disassembled. Heavy items positioned on the damaged, delicate items. And several choices to maintain sterility of instruments, rigid containers, steel pouch, sterilization wraps. So sometimes after autoclaving, we have to inspect our instruments for any possibility of damage or breach of the packaging. So if one item is damaged or break, we will consider that unsteady, and we will do again for the autoclaving. For recommendation storage of sterile items, sterile storage area should be well ventilated, area that provide protections against dust, moisture, and temperature and humidity extremes. Sterile items should be stored so that packaging is not compromised. Sterilized items should be labeled with a load number that indicates the sterilizer use, the cycle or load number, the date of sterilization, and the expiration date. Recommendation storage of sterile items. Event-related shelf life recognizes that the product remains sterile until the product process become contaminated. Example, ear or redness. Packages should be evaluated before use for use of integrity. Unrelated shelf life. That's common. Considered items remain sterile for varying periods depending on the type of material used to wrap the items or tray. Once the expiration date is exceeded, the pack should be reprocessed. For surface disinfection non-critical patient care, disinfecting non-critical patient care items. The process non-critical patient care equipment with FR-registered disinfectant at the proper use dilution and a contact time of at least 1 minute. Ensure that the frequency for disinfecting non-critical patient care surfaces be done minimally when visibly soiled and on a regular basis, such as after each patient's use or once daily or once weekly. Surface disinfection environmental services.
Just for the cleaner.
Disinfecting environmental services.
And healthcare facility.
Yes, yes, sir.
Ahead. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay.
Disinfect.
Disinfectant or clean housekeeping services. For example, floors, tablespoons, like that, on a regular basis, or daily 3 times per week. When spills occurs and when the surfaces are visibly soiled, use disinfectant for housekeeping purposes, where uncertainty exists as to the nature of the soil on the surfaces, blood versus dirt, or where uncertainty exists regarding the presence of multi-drug-resistant organisms on such surfaces. What are the policies related to CSSD? Some policies are implementing event-related shelf life. Like, for example, I think FIFO, first in, first out. Infection control and Cssd, housekeeping procedure, integrity or sterilized item, processing implant label device, instruments collection and transportation from to end user, and use of glutaraldehyde and Sandex OPA solution. CSSD departments, staff orientation, safety procedures, manual decontamination of medical devices, assembly, packaging, and wrapping, washer disinfector, dispensing and storage of sterile supply, use of sterilization indicator, sterilizer unloading, biological indicator monitoring, recall of house sterilized supplies. I think for this one, recall of in-house sterilized supplies. For example, we have a malfunction machine or a positive bacteria result from our machine. We will do the recall policy. In running sterilization cycle, implementing event-related shelf life. Sterile items will no longer have an expiration date. Sterility of items will be event-related rather than date-related. So in our hospital, we follow the event-related. The integrity of the package will be determined by the sterility of the enclosed items. Items will be stamped, labeled with a sterile unless package is open or damaged. Check before use. Insurance collection and transportation from to end user. All soiled instruments and trays must be collected from all the nursing units for thorough cleaning in a closed, rigid cup or container with biohazard side. Individual instruments must be properly placed in a rigid container with cover. To extend useful life of each instrument, they must be handled carefully. About the safety procedures, potions must be taken while handling sharps. Contaminated needles must not be recut. Needles must not be bent, broken, manipulated by hand. Sharps must be placed in puncture-resistant containers. Hands and other skin surfaces that are contaminated with potentially infectious fluid must be immediately and thoroughly washed. Eating and drinking is prohibited in the working areas. To protect staff members against biological and mechanical hazards, the personal protection equipment must be used when working in the decontamination area. For assembling and packaging and wrapping, only approved material are used. For example, rigid containers, disposable wraps, pill pouches. All items are rigidly labeled with the following information, of course. The name.
All items are rigidly labeled with the following informations: name of the item, sterilization date, sterilizer number, load number, printed name or name stop, and employee number of person preparing the item. Continue, Julius. A chemical
A
indicator.
chemical indicator integrator is placed inside each pack or tray. These packages will built-in chemical indicators do not require additional indicators. Disposable wrappers are secured with sterilizer indicator tip. Limit pack size does not exceed 12 by 12 by 20 inches or pounds in weight. The instrument sets or instruments plus the container do not exceed 7.7 kilogram or 17.5 pounds in weight. Sharp instruments are protected with a approved insurance protector. For dispensing and storage of sterile supplies, items will be distributed to the units upon the receipt of a central supply requisition to CSD from the units. Items that have previously been packaged, sterilized, and issued, but not used, may be returned to the dispensing area if the integrity of the packaging has not been compromised and there is no evidence of contamination. Such items must be the first to dispense from CSD when needed. Use of sterilization indicator. All packages, items for sterilization must contain a sterilization indicator. We're using here type 6. No item will be issued from SSD unless outside or inside the indicator strip has made the required color change. So there you have it, guys. That will conclude my uh, presentations for cleaning and sterilization, and also methods in sterilization. Thank you guys for listening.
Hello, Mr. Julius.
Yes,
Thank
Miss
you for
Arlene.
the thank you for the participation today regarding on your topic discussion. And I know you, I know you are now already plan to anyway. I cannot say bye bye, but for your good, for the good work that towards our CSSD continue for ours.
Thank
Thank
you
you
also,
also,
Miss
Miss
Ari.
Ari, for having me here as your special guest.
There
There
are
are some
some
technicalities while we are proceeding with our presentations, but Alhamdulillah, we made it until the end.
Thank you, Mr. Julius, and see you next time around.
See you next time around, Miss Ari.
For the continuations, thank you, Mr. Julius. For the continuations, I would like to discuss some important facts to remember inside CSSD. Uh, for additional, a while ago I already discussed this, the biological indicators. This defined resistance to specify sterilization process. Our chemical indicator here is used to monitor the presence, attainment of one or more parameters required satisfactory sterilization process used in a specific test of sterilization equipment. The containment device. This is reusable rigid sterilization container instrument, case, cassette, or organizing tray intended for use in healthcare facilities. For the purpose of containing reusable medical devices for sterilization. Contaminated, what's the meaning of this? This is the state of having been actually or potentially in contact with microorganisms. Decontamination. According to OSHA, the use of physical or chemical means to remove, inactivate, or destroy bloodborne, bloodborne pathogens on a surface or item to the point where they are no longer capable of transmitting infectious particles in the surface or item is rendered safe for hunting use or disposal. The contamination area of healthcare facility designated for collections, retention, and cleaning of soiled and contaminated items. Dust cover, protective plastic bag used to protect sterile items from environmental contaminations such as moisture, dust, and wind, also known as sterility maintenance cover. What is IFU? Guys, what is that? This is stand for manufacturer's written uh, instruction for use. IFU acronyms. The labeling. Any legend, work or mark attached to, included in, belonging to, or accompanying any medical device or product. Reusable medical device is intended for repeated use on different patients with appropriate decontamination and other processing between uses. The shelf life. Term used with respect to a sterilized medical device and the period of time during which the item is considered safe for use. Device intended for repeated use in different patients. This is your reusable medical device. The sterile storage area. Area of a healthcare facility designed to store clean and sterile items and protect them from contaminations. And, and for the continual discussions of other topics, uh, we will have again on Saturday. Uh, with, supposedly now is this Giselle, but it moves the date on Saturday. She will be present us on Saturday, Miss Giselle. And for this discussion today, I would like to welcome you, the one stop also, on this discussion, but she didn't yet arrive. I'm waiting for her, Miss Joy Perfecto, the CSD staff on the evening shift. Anyway, it's already our talk now. We will end now topic and we will discuss on Saturday another one. And for my guests on the dashboard, thank you, Ronald Vlog, Nor Hashim Umar, Madeline Toledo, on the dashboard chart. And thank you very much. And thank you for coming today. And hoping I see you on my next live stream. So That's for today. My name is Irene at your service. I'm your speaker for today. I will come back after 2 days, 2 to 3 days, for another discussion topic. And the next formation cell will be I will have a Q&A, question and answer, that will lead you to learn what's question possible regarding in one survey. That's it for today, and thank you very much.